Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Riga for EU4 1.34 Lions of the North. So Riga is a nation that starts off located in the Baltic region. We do start off as a part of the Hanseatic League, of which Lübeck is the leader, along with Hamburg, Bremen, and Oldenburg, and all of these guys would defend us if someone attacked us. With the updates that came to Riga with 1.34, Riga became one of the best nations in the game to play tall with and to establish massive trade supremacy, rake in all the money in the world, and have a ton of subjects that will do your bidding. With this amazing mission tree that's been added, we're gonna get insane development in our provinces, insane trade modifiers which will enable us to dominate the Baltic Sea trade node, and we won't even need anything else because we'll already be too rich, and it'll enable us to subjugate some of our closest rivals and fight some of the bigger guys around us. So sit back, relax, and let's take a look at what you need to do as Riga to become the ultimate tall nation in the world. And before we begin, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like. It really helps out a lot. And boys, consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit 100k subs, and maybe with your support, we can do it. Let's take a look at what we need to do as Riga. So here we are as Riga. Like I said, we start off with this 131 guy right here, Archbishop Henning, and at the start of the game we are a clerical state, which gives us plus 5% tax, but we won't be staying as a clerical state for very long. Rigan ideas are pretty good. We got minus 10% def cost and plus 25% national garrison growth as a starter, and manpower recovery speed plus 20% as a finisher. Then we have some religious stuff like papal influence, trade efficiency, and domestic trade power, which is awesome. Missionary strength plus 2%, which might not be that necessary, plus 1 diplo rep, plus 20% fort defense, and plus 5% discipline. But to kickstart our game as Riga, we will need to work through this awesome mission tree. But first, we're gonna have to do some estate stuff. So go into your estates and summon the diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're gonna give the clergy religious state, clerical advisory council, and religious diplomats. We're gonna give the nobility primacy of the nobility, increased levies, and aristocratic counselors. And because we start off with 20% crownland, we're gonna seize land and give the burghers patronage of the arts and commercial advisory board, along with indebted to the burghers. We'll be taking land of commerce later. Now we need to kickstart our mission tree by doing this mission, and this mission. The mission connect with the Hanse requires that Lübeck has 150 opinion of us and that we put a merchant in Lübeck as well. The mission contact the emperor requires us to have Austria have at least 75 opinion of us, and the mission raise Riga's defense wants us to have our army at 100% of the force limit and a general. So what we're gonna do to fulfill those missions is start improving relations with Lübeck and improving relations with Austria, and then with the final diplomat we can improve with the Pope because we are a clerical state and we do want him to like us. Our force limit at the start of the game is 7, so we're gonna take our army right here and delete this cavalry regiment. It's too expensive for now. We'll get the cavalry back later, and we'll build 3 more infantry regiments. At this point, we can also tell these 2 light ships right here to protect trade in the Baltic Sea and go home during war. And now you can mothball your fort and lower army maintenance to save some money. We won't be fighting very soon. Then you're gonna want to set a rival. You will have only 1 eligible rival, most likely the Livonians, and you should rival them. We aren't really making enough money at the start for advisors, but I do recommend hiring a mill advisor, a morale, discipline, or fort defense level 1 guy if you have him, because we will want to get Miltech ahead of the Livonians and the Teutons. I'm gonna get this morale lady. Now it's time to wait to improve relations with these guys, and keep checking if you can ally Austria and Lübeck. You should be able to do it pretty soon with Lübeck, and you might be able to ally Austria. A diplorep or improve relations guy will help you with that, so get a diplorep guy if you have him. You are gonna fire him once you get some alliances in order. Once you unpause, you will get the heir event, and I recommend taking the papal protege for 10 papal influence. 432, not that bad. At this point, I can ally Lübeck, and I will do it. You should be able to do the same. Once you ally Lübeck, you will have 150 relations with them, and then you should take the merchant that's in Krakow and simply tell him to collect in Lübeck or something. Once that merchant arrives, you will be able to take the mission Connect with the Hanse, which unlocks this branch of the mission tree. It gives us 50 diplo points and 20 trade power in Lübeck. Now we're still working towards this mission and this mission. The mission, the city against the state, will do automatically later when we get some more crownland. No need to focus on this at the beginning of the game. Once you've allied Lübeck, you should work on getting some other allies in the HRE or over here in this region or in Scandinavia. As these 2 other guys are still improving with Austria and the Pope, we can try and find some other allies, but in my case, no one actually likes me. You should, however, try improving with Muscovy, Bohemia, Hungary, or Denmark, one of those big guys right here. In my case, I'm gonna try and ally Denmark. Once you get 75 opinion with Austria, you will be able to take the mission Contact the Emperor, where the event, a place within the Holy Roman Empire, happens, and we will join the HRE. And this is it right here. The first option is we must join the Empire and we will join it, or the second option is, well, to not join it. Of course, you should take this option right here, and just like that, we've become a part of the HRE. Once about a year has passed, you will want to try and declare on the Livonians and check to see who will come in if you co-belligerent the Teutons. If at this point the Teutonic Order have allied any powerful nations like Denmark or maybe Muscovy or someone like that, or Austria, then you should restart, because we will want to co-belligerent the Teutonic Order later when we declare on the Livonian Order. Of course, once you join the HRE, you will get downgraded from an archbishopric to a bishopric, which means you lose one diplomat. And there we go. At this point, I have managed to ally Denmark. Like I said, your allies will be random, but try and get some of these big guys right here. Don't ally Poland and Lithuania though. Now, I've noticed here in my game that Poland actually didn't take the PU over Lithuania. This might be unrealistic in your scenario because most often they do. So what I'm gonna do here is jump in as Poland and manually PU Lithuania in order to make this video more representative of what you're gonna experience. And there we go, I've made Poland PU Lithuania. This is what your game is most likely gonna be like as well. At this point, you should also start currying favors with your strong ally. You will need their help versus the Livonians and the Teutons. At this point, I'm also able to ally Bohemia. And in your campaign, you should be allied to 1 or 2 out of these 4 guys right here. Once you've curried enough favors to where one of your big allies will help you versus the Livonian Order, like here Denmark in my case, it is time to start our first war. But before that, we are going to recruit a general in order to fulfill this mission right here, raise Riga's defenses, where we gain 6k manpower, morale of armies and fort defense, but most importantly, subjugation CBs on the Livonians and the Teutons. And once you've taken that, raise forts and raise army maintenance and get ready to fight. And when you're ready, simply go ahead and declare on the Livonian Order with the subjugation CB, call in whichever one of your boys will come in, and make sure to co-belligerent the Teutonic Order. In my case, Brandenburg will come in as well, but that's not going to be an issue. Try not to get trapped between these guys here. Maybe you can run away through Poland and Lithuania and pop out over here, and then along with whichever one of your allies, come in from this side if you're allied to Denmark, Bohemia, or Hungary, or if you've allied Muscovy, try to run away like this, and then pop out from this side with Muscovy's help. So go ahead and declare your subjugation CB on the Livonians, and make sure you co-belligerent the Teutons. If you're a little unlucky like me, the Teutons may already be losing to Poland, in which case they'll lose some provinces, so based on that, we'll see what we'll do. For your tier 2 government reform, you should take commercial mission for +1 merchants and +10% global trade power. You can tell that third merchant to collect in Lubeck. During this war, once you occupy a bunch of Livonian and Teutonic provinces, you will be able to take the mission Compete with the Swedes, where we gain some money, and an event happens if we've also completed 2 other missions. Now that event happens when you complete the third out of any of these 3 missions, so don't worry about thinking that you're not gonna get it. Whenever you get one of these, just click it. And there we go. There's some money. Once you get that money, you should immediately build a church in your capital. If Poland is fighting the Teutons at the same time that you're fighting them as well, make sure that you occupy Danzig, Königsberg, and Memel. Those are the 3 most important provinces that we want to occupy. Don't worry about the rest that much. If they're not fighting Poland at the same time, then that's great. You got lucky. And once you crush the Livonian and Teutonic orders, here's what you're gonna do. Now, as long as you've occupied the important stuff over here in the Teutons, like I told you, Danzig, Königsberg, and Memel, and of course if you've gotten their capital, which you should have, even if Poland pieced them out, their capital would of course change, you are gonna go ahead and separate piece of the Teutonic order and take Danzig and Königsberg from them and make them your vassal as well. So only take these 2 provinces, no matter how big they are, and then you can vassalize them. Of course, if they have every province over here, you won't be able to vassalize them. So it's actually good if Poland takes a little bit from them, because if they're intact, you won't be able to vassalize them, like I said. But either way, go ahead and take Danzig and Königsberg, and then make them your vassal and take all of their money. This will be a lot of aggressive expansion, but don't worry, we're not going to be fighting that much, so it's all good. And that's the Teutons done. We've taken 2 very important provinces from them, and we've also vassalized the rest of them. Now, you may be wondering why we didn't also take Memel, and I'll explain that now. You see, to have certain modifiers here as Riga that we get from this mission right here, we can't have more than 6 provinces in Europe, which of course does enable us to colonize or even conquer other continents, but still, for the purposes of playing tall, we can't have more than 6 in Europe. And the 6 provinces that we are going to have in Europe are Riga right here, and Reval, which we're going to get from the Livonians, Gotland later as well, so that's 3, these 2, that's 5, and we're planning on getting Stockholm, and that's the 6th one. That's why we didn't take Memel, because it's the least valuable center of trade in the Baltic Sea. At this point, you will be able to take this mission. Don't take it just yet. Let's piece out the Livonian Order first, and when piecing out the Livonian Order, of course, we are gonna make them our vassal and take all of their money. And just like that, we have acquired 2 subjects, which will become loyal very, very soon. Now, once we're done with that, we will be able to take the mission Punish the Teutonic Order for 25 army tradition and 75 mill power, and this event happens. So the Teutons become our historical friend, their ruler and heir die, and we gain prestige as well. And then you can take the mission Subjugate the Livonians as well, where we gain 1 stab, and we gain a decision as well, where we can revoke the Livonian Confederacy from the Livonian Order. And this is the decision right here, dissolve Livonian bishopric, and you will lose stab when this decision is taken, but you should do it because this event happens. And basically in this event, you choose which of the bishoprics to dissolve, choose the one where the least religious regiments will rise up. Of course, there's not just one bishopric, you will need to dissolve a couple of these before you can move on with this branch of the mission tree, because we need to dissolve all of them right here in order to take the mission End the Confederacy. Now that you're done subjugating these guys, you should spy on Gotland and try and find some other allies and improve relations with the Teutons and the Livonians. At this point, you can also fire your advisors to save some money. Once you get the Pope's opinion of you back over 100, you will be able to take this mission Papal Embassy, where we gain a cardinal, and we gain the War Against Heresy CB against all heretic countries. That's pretty good. Now, during this point, we're focusing on letting time pass and stabbing up so we can dissolve other Livonian bishoprics, and we're gonna try and complete this mission right here, trade presence in Lubeck. What you'll most likely be missing here is mercantilism and 3% or more trade power in Lubeck. So for that, we're gonna bump up our lightship fleet a little bit and tell them to protect trade in Lubeck, and then we're gonna wait for events for mercantilism, and if we haven't gotten them yet, we can just promote it once or twice. So feel free to take out loans since you're a little bit bigger and build up your lightship fleet a little bit. At this point, once you've grown, you can also give the burghers land of commerce, and I am gonna take new burgher loans. Additionally, once you've gotten Tech 4 in all categories, you should activate Encourage Development in Riga right here and bump your capital up to 30 development. This will help us tick off the age objective, and it'll also help speed up the spawning of the Renaissance. Once you get the Livonian Order down below 50 Liberty Desire, you should go ahead and click on them right here and go ahead and seize land and seize the province of Reval from them. This will increase their Liberty Desire, but it's fine. And just like that, we have 4 out of the 7 centers of trade in the Baltic Sea. And by the way, you can totally delete the forts in Reval and in Königsberg. They aren't needed. Once 2 years have passed, after you've dissolved the Livonian bishopric, you will be able to do it once again, and of course, you should. And once again, simply pick whichever option gives you a little less religious zealots. In my case, it's the same, so it doesn't really matter. And just like that, the second bishopric is dissolved. Go ahead and beat up the Catholic zealots. Once you have about 8 to 11 ships protecting trade in Lubeck, you will gain 3% trade power, and of course, you should already be collecting with the third merchant that we got. You will be able to take the mission Trade Presence in Lubeck, of course, if you have mercantilism. I have 11%, so I am simply going to go ahead and promote mercantilism once, and then I can go ahead and take this mission. And once you complete the final of these 3 missions, no matter which one it is, here's what event happens. Additionally, we gain a 75% cheaper skill 1 trader here and 3 mercantilism, but the event is the most important. And this is the event right here, religion as a business. Now this first option right here unlocks the blessed plutocracy tier 1 government reform, where we become basically sort of a theocratic merchant republic. We gain +1 merchants, +2 yearly papal influence, +25% Curia treasury contribution, and -25% gov cap, which encourages us to play as a tall theocratic merchant republic even more. Of course, the second option right here, we lose gov reform progress, gain some stuff. Don't take the second option. Choose the first option to become a blessed plutocracy. As far as I know, Riga is the only nation that can become a blessed plutocracy, and here it is. At this point, we will have gained a 4th merchant And for now, the 4th merchant can go ahead and collect in the Baltic. Once you've unlocked all 3 of these missions right here, we will need to do this mission right here, and we can actually sell indulgences as a blessed plutocracy. Now, this is that option right here where you randomly click on a nation and it's in the influence section, and this is it, offer indulgence. Now, for nations to want to get indulgence from us, they need to be at 0 stability. And we need to offer nations indulgences 5 times in order to get this mission right here unlocked for +1 yearly papal influence and +5% clergy loyalty until the end of the game, which is super powerful. And to see basically which nations you can offer indulgences to, just go into the ledger down here, click on country, and then country once again, and sort by stability. Any nation in Europe that's Catholic that has 0 stability, you will be able to offer indulgence to them. In my case, that's Burgundy and Hesse right here. They're Catholic. And let me just recall a diplomat, and there's the option right there. Offer indulgence. So we spend 50 papal influence, and if Hesse accepts, which they will of course, they will give 3 months of income to us and get 1 stability and 10 prestige. You should do this 5 times to unlock that mission right there. And there we go, just like that, we got a little bit of money for some papal influence. Of course, now that we've become a blessed plutocracy with that mission, not only do we have estates, but we also have the merchant factions, which all the trade republics get. The aristocrats give us morale and sailors, but less trade power. The traders give us trade power and naval maintenance discounts, but less tax, and the guilds give us construction discounts, but less manpower, and plus 10% goods produced. They're all pretty good. You guys know the bonuses. I think the best at peacetime is to have the traders or the guilds in charge. And just to promote them, you can spend some points, and just like that, I now have the guilds in charge. If you're going to war, of course you are going to want to put the aristocrats back in power. And when another 2 years have passed, you will be able to dissolve the final Livonian bishopric. Of course, you could wait for a stability event, or you could stab up manually. I am gonna stab up manually just to show you how it works. And there we go, we're gonna dissolve the final Livonian bishopric. So it's time to end the bishopric of whichever one you didn't pick and fight the last religious zealots. Once you've dissolved the final bishopric, you will be able to take the mission End the Confederacy, where we gain 10 dev in total in our capital and minus 15% advisor costs for 25 years, along with +1 possible advisor and minus 33% liberty desire from subjects development. A very powerful mission. At this point, Riga is 40 dev in my game right here, since I already bumped it up to 30 to help speed up the spawning of the Renaissance. At this point, to advance further down your mission tree, you will need to take the Knights of Riga, the final mission in this short little subjugation brand. At this point, while we're working to complete the mission Sell Indulgences, basically while we're trying to sell indulgences and waiting for some papal influence, of course you could always buy indulgence to get some more, and you could improve relations with the Pope, but to complete this mission right here, not only do we need the Livonians and the Teutons to be super loyal, we also need all of the provinces in the Baltic region, which if you're lucky, you already have all of these through the Teutons, but either way, you'll still need to get these from Lithuania or Poland-Lithuania. So check to see who Poland is allied to. In my case, unfortunately, they are allied to Denmark, so I am going to curry favors with Denmark here to make them break their alliance with Poland, and then I'm going to get ready to declare on Poland-Lithuania and take all the provinces in the Baltic. So while you're working on getting that war versus Poland-Lithuania started, and while you're working on selling indulgences, it's time to chill and build up our nation. By the way, once you've taken the final mission out of these, you can tell the fleet that's protecting trade in Lubeck to go back to protecting trade in the Baltic. Something else that we're gonna do after we've became a blessed plutocracy is establish our own trade league, just like the Hanseatic League that we were in at the start. Of course, that one will still exist. As we can see right here, Lubeck still has these two guys in the league. We automatically left once we took a province from the Teutons. So simply go in here into the production interface and see which nations you can invite to your trade league. And I am going to invite Oldenburg right here, along with Lüneburg, and I am going to improve with Dithmarschen to invite them as well. I won't be inviting Gotland because we do want to conquer them. You shouldn't invite them either. As you all know, every member in your trade league transfers trade power to you. And at this point in the game, once you've established yourself as a blessed plutocracy, is when you really start raking in the money. As we can see right here, I'm making 6 ducats a month with army and forts up. There we go. If I lower everything, it's 8 ducats. I'm running 3 advisors as well. And once you establish your trade league and get a couple of these ports right here, and you have these guys as subjects, your income will continue to grow exponentially, especially when we open up with our first idea group in a while. And if you're lucky, you might even spawn faceting. like I did in Danzig. At this point, after improving relations with Dithmarschen, I'll also be inviting them to my trade league, and right now I have 3 members of my trade league. You might have a little more or a little less, it doesn't matter. Just keep inviting whoever you can. Of course, once you start raking in all that cash, you will want to start building buildings everywhere, especially marketplaces. You should construct buildings in your subjects as well. I did forget to mention this, and I also forgot to do it myself, but after you subjugate these 2 guys, make sure to give the nobility strong duchies. For our first idea group, I recommend leaning into the whole tall gameplay trade republic thing, so that's why I recommend opening up with trade ideas. Will it be a little overkill? Yes, slightly. Will we be the richest nation in the world in about 15 to 20 years? Yes, absolutely. So trade ideas for your first idea group. You can focus on dip if you want to, depending on what kind of ruler you got. Now that I have more than 50 papal influence once again, and now that once again I found another country with less than 1 stability, I will sell indulgences to England, and that's my second indulgences sold. I have to do this 3 more times. You may have already done it by now, if you got lucky or if you're generating insane papal points. But it's gonna be a little finicky trying to catch nations with less than 1 stab. I do recommend activating the Protect Trade State Edict in all of your states, just like that. At this point, I am gonna invite Goatland to my trade league since it is gonna be a while until I fight them, so why not get their trade power in the meantime? At this point in my game, I can also ally Austria, and in 1470, these are my alliances. I'm allied to Denmark, Bohemia, Austria, and the Pope, along with Brunswick. Although I don't really need Brunswick, since I am over my relations limit anyway, so I will be dissolving it with them. Once you get your 5th merchant, you can put him in Kiev and tell him to transfer trade. And of course, you're gonna go through Novgorod or Krakow, depending on in which trade node you hold the more trade power. In my case, it's pretty much the same. And at this point, I've once again gotten more than 50 papal influence, and I can offer indulgence to one of these 3 nations. I'll offer it to Bohemia. And just like that, I've done that 3 times now. For first stage ability, you should actually take Adaptive Combat Terrain for +1 combat bonus in Terrain of Capital. Now that I've gotten 50 favors with Denmark, I'll finally be able to make them break their alliance with Poland, so I can go ahead and fight Poland and Lithuania and take the provinces in the Baltic region. As I said earlier, we're working on doing that at this point and completing this mission right here. And at this point, I can also ally Muscovy, a nation which will be very valuable help in fighting these guys. By the way, I broke my alliance with Austria in order to keep my alliance with Denmark. For your Tier 3 government reform, you should go for Education of the Court for -15% advisor costs, or Education of the People for -5% idea cost and +33% institution spread in True Faith provinces. I'm gonna go with Education of the Court. I do think it's slightly better. At this point, I can offer indulgences for the 4th time, and I'll offer it to Denmark. It doesn't matter who you give it to. At this point in the game, I'm making 18 ducats a month from trade. You should be around the same, depending on what buildings you've built and on how many centers of trade you've upgraded. And at this point, I can offer my final and 5th indulgence to Bohemia right here, and after you offer your 5th indulgence, you will be able to take the mission Sell Indulgences, where we gain +1 yearly papal influence and +5% clergy loyalty equilibrium. And if your monthly income is at least 10 after you've done this, which of course it will be, and if your trade income is at least 50%, which of course it would be, -77.5%, you will be able to take the mission Dominate Commerce, where you gain 5 mercantilism and +25% trade efficiency for 25 years. Amazing. In just about 2 years, we've gone from making 8 ducats to around 20 per month. For your second idea group, I do recommend a military idea group and one that's gonna lean even more into the whole trade situation. So that's why for your second idea group and first mil idea group, I recommend that you take either plutocratic, and of course you already know the military bonuses, but I'm gonna tell you the economic ones now, like an additional merchant, plus 10% goods produced along with the 10 that we can have from the factions, and -5% dev discount, which is awesome, and the policy with trade for another merchant and -10% regiment cost is awesome as well. Of course, you could lean into the whole tall trade thing even more with quantity, which will give us +20% goods produced with trade, and later when we take economic and stuff like that, even more awesome policies. So either Pluto or quantity for your second idea group, but we are going to be taking them both either way. It just depends on what you want now. Personally, I'm gonna go with Pluto. And now that I finally have 10 favors with Muscovy, I'll finally be declaring war on Poland right here to reconquer the Teuton cores and conquer everything in the Baltic as well. You may have already done this if you got more lucky with alliances, or you may not be doing it yet if you're less lucky. Don't worry, do it at your own pace, just make sure to get everything in the Baltic region. So like I said, I'm gonna declare a reconquest from Malborg and call in Bohemia, the Pope, and Muscovy. You will need at least 2 allies to take down Poland, depending on their alliances as well. So you might get someone like Denmark and Austria, Bohemia and Muscovy like me, Hungary and Denmark, it doesn't matter. It's gonna be 2 out of these 5 guys helping you. And there we go. And I always give this tip whenever I get this event in a guide video. Radical reforms, it happens when you have a inflation reduction guy and a trade efficiency guy, and you can fire both of them for 200 admin and diplo points. What you should do before taking this is simply fire them manually, get the points, and then rehire them again, because they are some of the best advisors around. Once you get your 6th merchant, honestly put him wherever. I'm gonna tell him to transfer from Saxony to Lubeck for now. And now that this very long and actually kind of difficult war is done, here's what you're gonna take from Poland and Lithuania. Of course, first I am gonna separate piece Gotland here because I do want this province as well. This is the 5th out of the 6 provinces that we're gonna own. And just like that, I'm gonna core it up. I know I can reduce war exhaustion, it's not a big deal. But either way, whether you fought Gotland or not, that's gonna be an opportunistic war, and it's totally not necessary to do it now. But like I said earlier, we are gonna be taking everything in the Baltic region and giving the Teutons their cores back if Poland have taken them, and this is what I recommend dividing it like. This goes to the Teutons, and this goes to the Livonians, sort of evenly dispersed between our 2 subjects right here. And I'm not gonna take this province back to the Teutons, it's not that relevant for us. Instead, I'm gonna get war reps. And that is what your war with Poland and Lithuania should look like, at least the first one. Once this war is done, you will most likely be able to take the mission The Knights of Riga, where we gain +1 diplomatic relations, along with yearly army tradition +1 until the end of the game, which is insane, and +25% vassal force limit contribution, another permanent modifier. Meanwhile, the Teutons and the Livonians lose Liberty Desire. A super nice mission. And at this point, if you've built all the relevant buildings in the province of Riga, and if you have 3 stability, you will be able to take the mission Develop Our City, where we gain an additional 10 development in Riga, along with some awesome permanent modifiers. Well, conditional as long as we have less than 6 provinces, and they're all based on the buildings that we've built. And as you can see right here, we got -25% dev discount, plus 60 yearly tax income, province gov cost discount, clergy loyalty, trade power, goods produced, sailor increase, naval force limit, manpower increase, land force limit, defensiveness. A very awesome mission. And that's Develop Our City right there. For your naval doctrine, you should select Merchant Navy. At this point, once you've fought Poland and Lithuania, and if you're allied to Denmark, and if they still have Sweden, at this point you should dissolve your alliance with Denmark. For me, it happened earlier because they didn't like the fact I allied Muscovy. After you've dealt with Poland and Lithuania, now our next target is this mission right here, and to take the province of Stockholm. At this point, because we've built buildings in pretty much all of our provinces and upgraded all of our centers of trade to level 2, what you're going to focus on is upgrading your centers of trade to level 3, and if you have Gotland, building the Visby City Monument. At tier 3, we have +25% domestic trade power, which is awesome. But bumping these up to level 3 is more important. So that's why I'm gonna bump Riga. You can have as many level 3 centers of trade as you have merchants, which is not gonna be a problem for us. At this point, as an OPM, we have a force limit of 36, which is amazing. And we can definitely sustain a very large army now that our income is more than 30 ducats, most likely. So go ahead and build up your army. At this point, I can also invite Stettin to my trade league, along with Anhalt. And now we need to focus on completing the mission to break the Hansa, where we need to be the leader of a trade league, which we most likely are, and then we need to get every member that's in Lubeck's trade league to have 75 opinion of us. So just click on Lubeck, of course, if they still exist, and get all of these guys right here to have more than 75 opinion of you. In my case, it's just Bremen and Hamburg. In your case, it might be some other guys. So I'm gonna improve with Hamburg right here and with Bremen as well. This shouldn't be a problem. It's a pretty easy mission to complete. Once you get everyone in Lubeck's trade node to have more than 75 opinion of you, you will be able to take the mission Break the Hansa, where this event happens. And by the way, I'm not fighting Saxe-Lauenburg, I'm just helping out Lubeck in a war that they called me in. And just like that, once we've taken that mission, Lubeck is no longer the leader of the Hanseatic League, and it has simply dissolved. Once you get your 7th merchant, you can put him wherever, honestly. I'm gonna put him in the North Sea and tell him to transfer to Lubeck. And now that the war is over, I can tell you the main point about the mission Break the Hansa. Basically, once the Hanseatic League dissolves, you will pretty much be able to invite all of those guys that were in the Hanseatic League to your own trade league. So Hamburg, there we go, Bremen, and I'm gonna improve with some other eligible nations as well. And once you have at least 6 members in your trade league, you will be able to take the mission Lead the League of Riga, which is apparently what our league is called, and we gain plus 10% trade efficiency and plus 25% global trade power until the end of the game. Super powerful. Once you get your 8th merchant, once again, put him wherever you want to. By the way, make sure you've told the Teutons and the Livonians to divert trade to you. And there's my second level 3 center of trade. You might have 2 or 3 by now as well. And once you completed the entirety of your mission tree pretty much, except for the Reformation and Mercenary branches, which we can't do yet, it's time for our final war in the early part of the game, and it's gonna be against the Kalmar Union, or Sweden if it's independent. By this point, you should be a super powerful nation yourself and have lots of powerful allies, so go ahead and declare on Sweden or Denmark, and it's time to take over Stockholm. I am gonna call in Bohemia, Muscovy, and Lubeck, and this should be enough for us to take down the Kalmar Union and their allies. The main goal of this war is for us to get the province of Stockholm ourselves, and additionally, we might pop out a nation such as Finland as our subject. So go ahead and declare for the conquest of Stockholm. For your tier 4 government reform, honestly, all 4 of these are really good for us. You can take whatever you want to here. Personally, I'm gonna go with expand temple rights here, because why not? I haven't taken it, but like I said, all of these are good. And once your war with Sweden is done, here's what I recommend taking. Of course, you should take the province of Stockholm for yourself, and that's gonna be our 6th province, the maximum we can have in Europe if you want to continue playing with all those awesome modifiers that we got from the missions. And then you should also take all of these provinces right here that we can pop Finland out of, and then you can get war reps and money as well. Now, even though we have these provinces right now, the modifier shouldn't go away. As we can see, it's still right here. There's just an X on the owns less than 6 provinces. So what we're gonna do immediately is release the nation of Finland, just like that. And then we're gonna go into our subjects and grant them these 2 provinces up here. And apparently I was wrong about that, less than 6 provinces, because I understood it as 6 or less, but apparently we need to have 5 provinces. So you can just go ahead and give one of these provinces to one of your subjects, or release a subject or something like that. I'm just gonna give Reval back to the Livonians, and just like that, the modifiers are back. And of course, I'm also gonna upgrade Königsberg right here to a level 3 center of trade. Of course, we do need to have 25 dev in that province to bump it up to a level 3 center of trade. And just like that, there's our 3rd one. And I'm also gonna start construction on the Visby City Monument. And by around the late 1490s or early 1510s, your realm should look a little something like this. Basically, we start off as the tiny 1-province minor of Riga, and by this point, we have become one of the wealthiest nations in the world. We have the 3rd highest income in the world, only behind France and the Ottomans, and that is insane, with about 70% of it coming from trade. We're making 50 ducats a month right now, which is absolutely bonkers, with armies up and drilling. And we have acquired a bunch of subjects, the Teutons, the Livonians, and Finland possibly. Of course, we started off slowly, fighting the Livonians and the Teutons first and taking some provinces from them and then subjugating them. Of course, I did make a mistake by trying to get 6 provinces. I thought it was 6 or less and not less than 6, so my bad about that. But make sure to have about 5 out of these 7 estuary or center of trade provinces in the Baltic Sea trade node. And then of course we continue down our amazing mission tree. You wouldn't have done these branches by now either, because we need a bunch of mercs and we need the Reformation to spawn to complete these, but everything else by this point you should have completed, except maybe this top mission up here, for which we need 30% crownland, which you will get by seizing constantly, and less than 50 burghers influence, which might be a little bit tougher. And then we continued fighting Poland and Lithuania to get back the Teuton scores, if there were any owned by Poland, and to get these provinces right here to own the entire Baltic region. And of course, by this point, you should have established a very powerful trade league. I have 9 members in my trade league right now. All of these guys over here transferring trade power to me, so that's why we're so powerful. And of course, you could have fought the Kalmar Union as well to get the province of Stockholm if you wanted to, and to pop out Finland as well. By this point, our force limit is 39 9, which is amazing for just owning 5 provinces. I haven't really built up ideally up to force limit. I would probably go with something like this at this point, and you should be doing the same. And of course, you should have some trade fleets protecting trade in these trade nodes over here, and maybe even a battle fleet ready to go. By this point, you should have built all the relevant buildings. As we can see, I've built up all the marketplaces, all the production buildings, all the churches, some barracks too, some army and navy buildings as well. And I've built 4 level 3 centers of trade, which is amazing. Look at all the awesome permanent modifiers we have here, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll even promote Prussian and Swedish too. Why not? And by this point, if you want to continue playing tall, you can continue establishing subjects all around you, telling them to transfer trade power to you. Of course, the 6 provinces modifiers are only applicable to the province of Riga right here. These, the Cathedral of Riga, the Gateway Port of Riga, and the Castle of Riga. So these are the only things that aren't gonna happen if you get more than 6 provinces. If you don't think these bonuses are good enough, then of course you can go ahead and expand to your heart's desire. But I do recommend playing tall-ish like this and playing with a heavy focus on subjects. And of course, like I said, you should look like this by this point, and you should be making at least this much income by this point. And by this point, the province of Riga is at 51 development. I only devved it up to 30 myself, so all that 21 development right there is all from missions and stuff like that. We opened up with trade and plutocratic right here, or trade and quantity, but like I said, we're gonna keep leaning into that whole tall trade republic thing. So after taking trade and Pluto, I recommend economic and quantity for even more policies and bonuses to trade, dev, and income. And after you go trade, Pluto, economic, quantity, you can go with something like Diplo or influence to help you manage all the subjects that you're going to be getting. And then you can go with something like quality and some other mill idea groups as well. For your tier 5 Governform, you should take mercantile tithe for even more trade stuff. For tier 6, you should take a strengthening religious head, and I do recommend staying Catholic, by the way. For tier 7, you should take empower the burghers, although be careful with all of these burgher privileges. Their influence is going to be insane, so keep an eye out on that. If you can't manage it, then you should take something else. But empower the burghers is going to lean into the whole trade thing even more. If not, you can go with the mercantilistic approach. For tier 8, you should take combat heresy. For tier 9, you should take divine guidance. For tier 10, you should take church and the state for +1 free policies. For tier 11, you should take harmonization of cultures or religious society. And for tier 12, you should take the global crusade. And like I said, by around the late 1490s or early 1500s, your game should look a little something like this. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you want to watch me do stuff like this live, you can follow me on twitch.tv/TheRedHawkLive. And if you want to catch up on stuff from over there, you can subscribe to the second channel, link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like, it really helps out a lot. And if you want to see more guides like this or more EU4 videos in general, definitely hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on anything. And you can become a member today and join the Discord, the link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.